Hello, this is Danielle Channels Planets, and today is an astrological and archetypal update for April 20th, moving through the week and through the 1st of May and into the first week of May, because some of these transits are going to be going on longer than just today. The first one that I'd like to acknowledge and take a look at is the sun that has moved into Taurus. And the sun is the principle of will and identity, potential, the ego, the persona. It's the centering principle, the organizing principle of personality, just as the sun is the center of the solar system, and the other planets orbit around the sun. Similarly, our ego functions in a correlating type of way where our ego is a centering and organizing principle of our psyches. And so the sun is an important archetype. That's why everyone seems to know their sun sign, particularly in Western culture. Now, with the sun moving into Taurus, that is a shift, but I think more importantly, possibly, is the fact that it is in a square to Pluto. And the square aspect is a 90-degree angle, and it's associated with growth and tension, individuation, and two archetypal principles that are coming together somewhat in an adversarial type of way to create friction. Now, this friction, is not necessarily moralistically good or bad. Without square aspects, we might not grow and come to terms with things outside of ourselves. So the square aspect can bring up discomfort, tension, anxiety, frustration, things that cause us to have growing pains, the tension of the square. So in a square with Pluto, Pluto through about May 5th, so that's using about a 9 to 10 degree orb on that. Orb means range of influence. So with Pluto, it's the lord of the underworld. Pluto is associated with Shiva, Kali, Dionysus, Persephone, just to name a few. And it is also associated with our instinctual urges in the body and the depths of the unconscious, of repressed material in our psyches. So it is associated with the underworld and hell. You could think of it as like the furthest reaches beyond what is known, and beyond that is, can be chaos. But chaos can also bring transformation. So Pluto is associated with intense, instinctual, transformative forces that can erupt and certainly destroy our, whatever it's coming into impact with. So now here, my channel is dedicated towards mental health and psychological well-being for individuals. Other astrologers might focus on cultural and global impacts, and I certainly think that that's where we can find most of the evidence for archetypal astrology, is looking back at the past. And certainly there are many correlations to Pluto transits. One of the most recent ones being 2020. It was a Pluto-Saturn year. But right now, in our individual lives, which is what I'll focus on, Pluto in a square to the sun can bring up transformative themes in our life that are not completely comfortable, that force us to confront or reconcile with split off, repressed, unconscious parts of ourselves. This is integrating the dark side of the God image, as Jung might say. Pluto brings up images around sexuality, around the body, around power, around our instincts, around our animalistic kind of way of being in the world, and if we've been repressing what happens from our necks down, which most of us are, Pluto has a way of forcing a confrontation with that through illness, through relationship, through conflict, through something in the world out here, because Pluto will be projected outwards if we don't integrate it. So a lot of us might bump into that dynamic at this time, which forces us to, Pluto is kind of like getting stuck in a complex. It's like a power tripping projection. You can tell that you're kind of in a complex about something with Pluto, because it feels really intense. It feels really polarizing, like self versus other. I think difficult work with, what's going to happen here is the sun is at 0 degrees. It's likely that projections, othering, extremist kind of views can start to come up. Now, this doesn't need to be all bad in that way, but that's just like one possibility of, images of hell, images of suffering, images of death. Things can come up that we can see into the underworld. The sun shines a light on the contents that have been repressed in our own psyches, and we are forced to confront that with Sun square Pluto. So there's so many different ways that archetypes can express themselves. So I just try to offer as many interpretations as I can to give you something to hold on to, because the sun is, while it's moving into Taurus, is, quite a pleasant transit with the sun in Taurus, and the coming of spring and things blooming, and it's Venus ruled, and there's, animals that are having babies and things like that. Yet Pluto, in a square to that, can, give us eyes to see what's under the surface. So it's a bit of a spoiler in terms of enjoying, what summer brings, what spring brings, what the warm weather brings. Pluto is, again, it's not bad. It expands our consciousness if we can find space to integrate it. If we can make room for these things that exist in the human psyche, that exist in the world, that we'd rather not confront, that are associated with hell and the body, or with othering, or with polarization, or with death. That is, one of the biggest tensions to hold in the Western psyche, at least, is the one between, there's the ego that is light and good, and, it's the Christian God image with Jesus associated with it. And then there's Pluto, which is everything else that's been repressed around, whatever has been demonized. And so that is knocking at our door in our personal lives in one way or another. And it doesn't necessarily need to be spiritual. It can be, though. So that going on, I would say now is a good time to think about how you'd like to move your body and prioritize that with noticing what the body needs to move, and in safe ways to get out of the head, and to find ways to express increased energy and transformative properties. One of the things I could see here is a little bit of spring cleaning. So Pluto wanting to move, destroy, donate, get rid of, shed the skin. It's the snake shedding a skin. It's also Kundalini energy that can become activated, which can therefore charge the sun up. And so making time to, not sit and go out and get physical activity can be helpful to integrate that. Pluto can also just, be like a reigniting of pleasure and of animalistic, instinctual ways of being. So again, it's not bad. It's more so our attitude towards it. And the square aspects can suggest that our attitude about it is perhaps a bit polarizing. The other thing that is going on from now, April 20th, and it's already been going on a little bit through the very beginning of May, is a Venus and Uranus conjunction. And Venus is, now those two are also in Taurus. On April 25th, they will move into Gemini together. Venus leading the way, I think the day before. But so this conjunction that's going on between Venus and Uranus is going to be in an earth sign, and then it's going to be in an air sign for the next couple of weeks. So from now until the 25th, they're finishing up in Taurus. So Venus is the ruler of Taurus. It is the principle of aesthetics and beauty and creativity, but as well as relationships and our values. Venus is the principle of not only what we value, but what we place our worth in, and that can be material, spiritual, emotional. Values can be conceptual or they can be literal, but they are things that we find fulfilling in our lives. And so Venus, also relationships. So you can think of the archetype working inwardly and outwardly, on our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to others, our relationship to our values, and the worth that we find and the fulfillment that we find within those relationships. And Uranus is a bit of a disruptor. It brings a very strong creative thrust that is unexpected and sudden. It can be erratic, it can be weird, it can be lightning strikes of insight. Uranus is the archetype or the principle of freedom and rebellion and awakening. So if we put those two together in a conjunction, means they're operating together. They are coming through like a same radio wave in some ways. And Venus-Uranus can be, certainly weird fashion, weird relationships, meeting new people, meeting people that are outside of our normal confines of what we usually hang out with. And that can be very liberating for us. That can be very much a good thing, helping us expand our consciousness, expand our awareness. Venus-Uranus being in the earth sign of Taurus can mean some spring cleaning, reorganizing our lives around our values. Uranus is self-realization, self-actualization, individuation. So there might be a reassignment of our values, or looking at the way that we've been living, and all of a sudden having a very strong moment of clarity that we couldn't see coming, that realigns us with what's true to us, and realigns us with something that maybe you've been living by the value of security and comfort, and Uranus can come around and destabilize and reorient you or back in alignment with the values of authenticity and autonomy and freedom and creativity. So I imagine that that's probably happening for a lot of people right now, kind of a wake-up call around your creativity, around who you really are, what you want to get out of this life. Uranus kind of comes around and ejects you out of the tower and shakes things up and says, hey, where have you been? What have you been thinking? Stop living for other people and what culture and what your family have told you to be. Remember who you are, a unique individual, a unique person that has something completely original that lives within you to bring forth into the world. So I do hope that positive expression of Venus-Uranus is coming through for many people out there. As those two move into Gemini, that will shift, especially the ingress moment from Earth into air. Venus ruled sign into a mercurial ruled sign. Now, when these two move into Gemini on the 24th and 25th of April, that can shift how these values and how this creativity comes through, from a more material, financial, realistic, grounded place into one that is more communicated and conceptual, and one that we want to connect through talking about it and thinking about it and learning about it, because mercurial will be more of a quicker moving, cognitive or mental type of energy where these things are taking place. which could really bring forth things that, we haven't even seen yet with Uranus moving into Gemini, like conceptual frameworks being completely rewritten around how we see and we view things in our lives. So, yeah, just sudden bursts of clarity or insight of how we understand and our consciousness in general and what we value with our consciousness. So that's very exciting, and that's kind of what I'm throwing out there for the rest of April in your individual lives. The other thing I want to throw out there about that transit is you might be a little erratic right now. There's a potential for erratic dreaming of potentials and possibilities. I want to do this. Oh, maybe I want to do that hobby. Oh, maybe I should travel the world right now. Oh, maybe I should focus on this value that's important to me. And so, biggest recommendation is to pump the brakes. Like any kind of big idea or big financial decision that you might make, like on a traveling for a month somewhere in South America, or signing up for a year-long membership of something. Just sleep on it, because Uranus will pull the trigger very quickly, and it's like a dopamine hit, and it's exciting, and it's like, ooh, for me, and I'm just gonna go with this. And so that energy can really be in the air right now. And the next day we might think of something completely different that's of equal value and of equal importance. So I think the trick right now is to try to let the energies pass through you, take them seriously, but try to pump the brakes, sleep on it, revisit, and any big, huge decision, try to wait a week before deciding, if you can, at least a day. The other part of this is that the energies of Uranus, Venus coming together, normally not destructive, but right now they're in a trine to Pluto, and they will continue to be in a trine to Pluto as they move into Gemini, and Uranus will carry on in its trine to Pluto for a while, for the rest of 2026. With Pluto involved, it really intensifies some of the creative transformative energy coming through. It intensifies it in a way where it brings in an aspect of transformation that can have a death and rebirth archetype tied to it. So again, with the snake shedding its skin, and something is destroyed. Something comes to an end in our lives for something else to begin. Now, we can obviously see some of this occurring on the world stage. There could be, sudden, erratic displays of power, and that could be associated also with loss and death and destruction. But in our personal lives, and metaphorically, our liberation, Uranus, is guided by, held by, followed with, it's a trespass, not trespasses, but transitions through the underworld. So there's something about us going within ourselves and confronting parts of ourselves that we'd rather not face, that brings forth the fruit of the Uranus-Venus, the creativity, the new way of being, the new style of consciousness, is necessitated by a confrontation with the unconscious. So it is more supportive. This one isn't as tense, but nevertheless, Uranus-Pluto coming together is an absolutely ginormous revelation, transformative transit. It's also associated with freedom, rebellion, awakening, and revolution. So think of this time in your life as how am I having my own crisis that is also giving birth to my own individuation and revolution in my life. So depending on where that's happening in your chart, that could be coming through in a very powerful way. Still this week, we do have a Saturn-Mars conjunction. And right now, today, it's still very much the stellium is active. That has been active since the week of the new moon in Aries. And we've had an ongoing Saturn-Neptune conjunction. They're still in orb. Now that Saturn has passed past Neptune, it's almost as if what's been dissolved is now being rebuilt. and the new boundaries of the new way of being is starting to be constructed around the dream. And we're getting to work, and it's starting to make sense, and we're seeing the way through. But Saturn, Mars can still feel like, God, this is going to take a while. Like, this is going to take time. This is not going to be easy. There's going to be delays and setbacks. And with Neptune, there can still be confusion around exactly which direction things are going, or where to place importance. On the 20th of April, with Mercury and Mars conjunct, it's a helpful energy. It helps us organize and understand and go into action with perhaps some of the energies that have come through since the new moon, and now they're integrating. However, the Saturn-Mars principles acting together, conflict, war, aggression, boundaries, delays, setbacks, can be a frustrating aspect. So if there's any kind of irritability or like boredom or stagnation in the air, that will start to lift, just maybe not as quickly as Aries energy might like. But there is a benefit, to channeling anger in a titrated way. So again, with regular physical movement or reprioritization of physical movement, or Saturn can help kind of reorganize Mars to set it in some kind of routine. So my recommendation again for this is to reconnect to physical activity in a organized kind of way, where we recognize that it's important for the body, it's important for dopamine, it's important for nature, it's important for our mind-body connection, it's important for grounding these energies that are part of transformation, and making sure that we take the body with us and make sure that the body stays in its biological pace, which is a lot slower than technology. And Uranus, Venus can be a very fast-moving, quick energy that can make us almost leave the body, where Mars, Saturn is saying, like, no, this can only go so fast, and the body needs to come with. So stay tuned for more updates. I'll be talking about archetypal, planetary archetypes, the aspects they make to each other. I offer readings on anything you like, natal, transit, anything at all. And my link is below. Check out my website. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And stay tuned for more archetypal updates with the planetary aspects and astrological weather. Thanks for watching.